What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Today I wanted to talk about Holochain. Now, in all fairness, you guys did ask me to speak about Holochain about a month and a half ago. I remember on my Twitter I had a poll and it clearly won. I just got incredibly busy. My apologies, guys, but here we are today, and I figured with the recent Binance listing and everybody kind of paying attention to it, I thought now would be a really great time to kind of do a review of it for you guys. And I have to give a special shout out to Jeff from Quantalysis for providing all of the research necessary to get this video out as quickly as possible. If you guys are not following Quantalysis yet, it is an amazing one-stop shop for all ICO, analytics, reviews. He dives deep into the white papers, the tech. Definitely a great starting place for any projects that you're interested in, just to kind of get you off the ground level. So that being said, guys, I want to jump into the review. So what's the problem exactly that Holochain is trying to solve? Well, the estimated revenue for cloud hosting in 2017 was roughly over $250 billion. Large enterprise companies such as Amazon and Google tend to dominate the cloud computing industry. Holochain is attempting to create the infrastructure to run distributed apps on, or dApps, obviously. We've seen a few crypto companies take on the problem of decentralized web services before, like, for example, Daddy or Sonam. We've also seen Ethereum, NEO, and a slew of other blockchains as well, creating solutions to run dApps on. But Holochain isn't exactly a blockchain, but a technological offering that takes concepts from it and stitches on distributed hash tables, or DHTs, and custom data validations to enable a different mode of distributed computing. Holochain has actually been around for a long time by crypto standards, guys. If you look at their GitHub, you'll see a massive repository. The primary directories to look at are Metacurrency, Scepter, Holo, and Holochain. If you look at the team's background, you'll notice Metacurrency has been around since 2008. The Metacurrency project is a think tank working on new economic solutions and in support of the open source distributed network technologies, Holochain and Scepter. This project may not have started out as a backbone for a decentralized internet, but it surely had evolved side by side as cryptocurrencies have exploded. Now, we are kind of starting to notice some similarities between things of this nature, right? I mean, some things that are popping in your head, you're saying, well, maybe Elastos, right? Or maybe, but let's dive in a little further and realize that maybe these guys aren't exactly 100% competitors. So Metacurrency essentially is really what I want to focus on right here. So Scepter is their native operating system. In turn, Holochain derives from Scepter. Holo is the first real-world application built atop Holochain. Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither was Holochain. This is news for us because this video is not a blockchain project review. That's because Holochain isn't exactly a blockchain, but rather a blockchain alternative to enable distributed application. It asks the question, does every app need a token-based distribution ledger? If not, Holochain might be an attractive alternative to dApp developers. So, if it's not a blockchain, what is it? So, we've mentioned it before, Holochain isn't a blockchain. In blockchain, each node strives to have the same latest copy of the distributed ledger. Blockchains also have the dubious distinction of extremely high costs for storage and low scalability. Holochain attempts to break down those barriers in order to make it cheap for app developers and fast for their products to run. Holochain is different from blockchain in that it attempts to be lightweight architecture where even mobile phones and other low-capacity devices can run the network. To see why Holochain could be a great alternative, let's look at the largest smart contract-enabled blockchain out there. You guessed it, Ethereum. So on Ethereum, every smart contract is run through the Ethereum virtual machine, or the EVM. If your application is a game, for example, your application is also going to be stored in the same place where an insurance application is stored or any other application is stored, because everything is all stored on the same exact chain, right? So as an entrepreneur, I would hate to have my application bogged down by apps completely unrelated to my business, right? So, developers are creating workarounds where off-chain solutions are used to support more complex applications and transaction volumes. With code sitting on-chain, developers are pressured to develop projects with very little margin of error. Holochain is decentralized in that there are distributed nodes, especially since they sold hardware devices ahead of their ICO. Or it's funny because their ICO is actually referred to as an initial community offering, which I thought was quite interesting. Anyway, in Holochain, each node can hold its own ledger. Let's go into an example. So one ledger with node A may be different from node B. If node A needs to share its copy to the network, consensus will be reached. Holochain's consensus can be viewed much like Git, a distributed version control system. In Git, all changes are organized in a chain via cryptographic hashes. Okay, so that kind of sounds like blockchain so far. But in this system, if you trust the latest hash, you can figure out all the previous information or pieces of it if you don't want, all of it. You don't want the whole enchilada, so to speak. So from any information source, and you can verify that it's valid. This system enables distributed storage and data integrity validators. So Bitcoin and Ethereum do the same thing. So what's the difference? Well, in Bitcoin and Ethereum, everyone strives to work on a single branch. In Bitcoin's case, it chooses the longest chain and sends that copy to the rest of the network. When disagreements occur or software patches are made, Bitcoin then splits or forks. In Bitcoin, you cannot merge the forks back together because Bitcoin is essentially the longest chain, or the largest branch of a Merkle tree if you want to be more specific. So, with the Git approach, the longest chain doesn't matter. Content does. Blockchains such as Bitcoin care about the longest branch, not the content contained within. So what does this mean in layman's terms? Well, if a code base was worked on by multiple developers, programmer A may make update A. Programmer B works on update B. Simple enough, right? If there's no conflict between update A and B, then they can merge together into the repo. Or programmer A may decide not to integrate changes into the community Git, but instead keep it local for proprietary reasons. The same thing happens in Holochain. Let's say dApp A is run on the entire Holochain network, but dApp B decides it only wants to run a certain cluster of nodes. Both dApp A and dApp B can do just that. Dapplication A interacts with the shared distributed hash table, the DHT, while Dapplication B doesn't. It's pretty simple. So the result is a system where data does not need to be shared to everyone. What happens on dApp A does not need to broadcast to dApp B, C, etc. So if John were to message Sally on a social network, George would not need to know about it, right? Applications such as chat messengers, payment channels, and collaborative document technologies already have these features. The only difference here is that these programs would be decentralized rather than running through Facebook, Google, or some other kind of centralized entity. So the applications are run entirely by the people who use it, not the corporate web servers needed. So let's talk about Holo Fuel. Holo is powered by Holo Fuel, a cryptocurrency backed by digital assets, the processing, computation, and storage needed for efficient cloud hosting. So rather than pegging its value to another currency, it's instead pegged to computer resources. Think of it this way. When insufficient storage or processing power is available, the price of Holo Fuel will increase via a market mechanism to incentivize nodes to provide more computation resources. Centralized ecosystems, for example, like Uber, you'll end up paying more when there are fewer drivers, for example. But in a market economy, hosts set their own prices for their own digital assets. When resources are low across the network, hosts can set high prices for Holo Fuel. When resources are high, prices decrease and providers with high costs exit. So, real quick, let's look at some pros and cons. So, pros. Holo already raised funds for its hardware sale. A portion of these funds will be used to provide enablement and onboarding services for developers. If you're a developer, this basically means you will be able to learn from the Holochain team in person, app design, consulting services, and software toolkits to accelerate development. Also, the infrastructure sale essentially preceded the network prior to its mainnet launch. Imagine walking into Best Buy and the computer you're about to come with has a sticker on it that says "Mine X coin" by purchasing this computer. Also, their Git-like consensus approach is more aligned to how applications are constructed today. So are there any cons? Well, maybe not necessarily cons, but potentially concerns. So this isn't really a negative point, but will software updates automatically push to hardware devices? Also, Holo Fuel is pegged to a market economy mechanism for a host's computational resources. How will Holochain deflect economies of scale? Won't we end up with the same situation of cloud computing we are in now, where companies to achieve economies of scale push the price of Holo Fuel low enough to crowd out smaller players? Also, will Holochain's hardware manufacturing be a bottleneck in enabling bandwidth for their network? And finally, proof of work secures Bitcoin extremely well. What does security look like in Holochain? What types of attacks are we likely to see? We don't really know these things just yet. So finally, let's have a little bit of a look at the team. So you have the CEO Arthur Block, serial entrepreneur and consultant building incentive systems for a variety of applications. If that's not quintessential background needed for decentralized systems with incentivized mechanisms, I don't know what is. We also have the executive engineer and co-founder Eric Harris Braun. So he co-founded Metacurrency with Art, serial consultant, contractor, building applications. Eric received a BS in computer science from Yale University. So there's obviously a very, very large team on the website. We are assuming that some of these individuals are part-timers, contractors, or advisors. But the one thing you may notice as you comb through everyone's profile is a very strong sense of spirituality and ethics in how they position Holochain. It's very unconventional compared to other projects. Many of the team members at Holochain are independent contractors and consultants in their respective fields. Typically, other crypto projects will try to max out the number of big-name companies in their experience or bring on all-star advisors to bring more attention to it. Holochain is just very different in this sense. There's also kind of a really strange array of positions on the website. There's a filmmaker, a musician, and a people/culture coordinator. So yeah, very, very, very different approach, guys, moving forward. So, I mean, essentially, what is the verdict? Well, by standing apart from decentralized cloud computing, ultimately Holochain is taking on blockchain itself as a crowning architecture of decentralized computing. If it succeeds, it will be cheaper and faster blockchains in general. Using a Git-like consensus scheme allows apps to be standalone, much as how sidechains are to root chains now. So with every node not needing to keep a, cumulatively growing ledger, it is solving the expensive storage cost problem. The concept is unique and sound. The only thing we question is how will this team coalesce from a group of individuals who are strong independent contractors and practitioners in the field to a finely tuned team that will meet the needs of enabling its envisioned ecosystem. So guys, that's basically Holochain in a nutshell. Very, very different project. It's funny, holistic, Holochain. I can actually see like where they get the terminology from now. So very unique approach, very different, not exactly a blockchain. So definitely kind of like, should I even really be talking about it on this channel? Well, of course. I mean, we talk about DAGs, block lattice, all these other things as well, guys. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the review of Holochain. Shout out to Quantalysis for the hardcore research and review to get this out speedy and quick. And I want to say thank you to everyone that's been coming back to the channel, everyone that's been mashing on that like button, that's been subscribing, dropping comments below, chatting in the Telegram group. I love to hop in and see what you guys are doing. So that being said, my name is K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto and peace out.